as a business member, if you can solve some of your business goals, if you are interested in certifications, some of the costs associated with becoming a B Corp member or becoming climate neutral certified, that can count toward your 1% for the planet annual commitment. So in a way, if that is important to your business, you can, that's something you can go after, and it can be, under the umbrella of 1% for the planet. And it's not one or the other. These certifications do signify really important commitments.
This is Evolve CPG, a community of purpose-driven brand leaders who not only believe in better, but actively pursue it. That's better products, better brands, and better leadership for a better world. Join our online community where we're going further, faster, together at community.evolvecpg.com. I'm your host, Gage Mitchell, founder and creative director of Modern Species, a sustainable brand design agency helping better brands grow and scale their impact. On this episode, we're speaking with Allyson Bartlett, Director of Brand and Marketing for 1% for the Planet, about why and how companies and individuals are formalizing their commitment to the planet in ways that does good, feels good, and makes good sense.
Well, hi, Gage. Nice to see you. Allyson Bartlett, Director of Brand and Marketing at 1% for the Planet. And for those of you who are not familiar, 1% for the Planet is a global organization that exists to ensure our planet and future generations thrive. I know we're going to get into sort of the mechanics of what that actually means in the model, but at a really high level, we certify environmental giving.
Awesome. Thanks, Allyson, for carving out some time. I'm really excited to chat. We had the pleasure of just seeing each other in person not too long ago at the summit, which was really fun to reconnect with people in a physical environment. That was amazing. But I'm also just really excited to have you on the show just to talk about something I'm passionate about, which is 1% for the planet, because Modern Species has been a member for a little while, and we've gotten a lot of rewarding experiences out of it and great benefit from participating. So I want to encourage everyone listening in to kind of look more into 1% if you're not already a member. So before we dive into deeper 1% details, though, I'd love to know where your personal passion for the planet came from.
Absolutely. So it's funny thinking about how I made the leap over to 1% for the planet, because I was out of college. I was working in marketing, which I'm doing now, but at a healthcare firm. And it was extremely rewarding and challenging, and a really great job out of college. I was there for almost 9 years. But I realized that despite the, complexity that really challenged me, I was really missing out on my core passion, which is the environment. And marketing, healthcare is just not as sexy as the environment. But my love for the environment goes back to my early days growing up in a really bucolic setting in New Hampshire, and just,
nice.
Playing in swamps and running around and beautiful acres. And I actually remember going down to visit my grandmother in Florida and learning more about manatee endangerment, and was so concerned about it coming back that I created all of these signs out of just plywood and spray paint and stuck them in my yard, save the manatee. I lived on a dirt road, so I don't know if I really changed anyone. I'm not sure how great my advocacy was, but I kind of always had that advocacy in me and interest in the planet, which, has just evolved over the years. I now live at a little ski resort in Vermont, and looking out my window, I can hop on a trail, go hiking, skiing, go down to the beautiful swimming holes. So I definitely surround myself with the beautiful outdoors whenever I can.
That's really cool. I feel like when I ask people sometimes where their kind of interest in environment comes from, it often starts with them living in a very beautiful environment, kind of growing up. And there's something about that kind of childhood experience of playing in a forest or in the mountains or in streams or in maybe your case in the swamps or something like that. That's really powerful. It's maybe that imagination of a child or something. One of the reasons I live in the Northwest is because my family took a trip out here to the Northwest when I was a kid. And I just remember walking down this trail in a national forest. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like one of the kind of rainforesty areas up here in the
Mm-hmm.
Northwest in Washington State. And we parked our RV or whatever that we were traveling in a spot, but we would get up in the morning and it was all misty and you hear these cool like birds chirping and different things that sounded kind of tropical, but you walk down this little trail and it's just lush and green and kind of like dew is on the leaves and it's misty, and then you kind of walk through that trail out to a beach where there's like big logs on the beach and little tide pools and so on and so forth. I just thought we just like walked into this like, I don't know, imaginary new environment, because I grew up in Colorado where it's kind of like high and dry, right, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So not a lot of like misty days and access to water other than a couple lakes. So for me, it was just magical. It was green. It was like almost prehistoric. It felt like you walked into a whole different world. So I always wanted to get back out to the Northwest at some point. So it's fun to hear that like some of your early childhood nature experience also drove your passions.
Absolutely.
And then animals, I think that drives a lot of people too, endangered species or different things like that. I've heard a lot of stories there too. So are you still a big manatee, save the manatee advocate?
Yeah, and it is funny to think about the club I was part of, Save the Manatee nonprofit partner, that is now
Yeah.
a vetted nonprofit in the 1% for the Planet network of nonprofit partners.
That's awesome.
So it is
Full circle.
Yeah, exactly. But
Did
yes,
you have a hand at getting them into the network?
I can't take credit for that, but I do very much still love sea life, even living in Vermont, but really, have such a vested interest in so many issue areas of the environment, from food, big foodie, to wildlife, water, land, everything, climate justice. So 1% for the Planet has definitely deepened my understanding of environmental issues and my passion to protect the planet, for sure. So
Nice.
it is very full circle. And I feel very lucky to get to do this work. And I think my 10-year-old self would feel proud.
Yeah, absolutely. From putting your little Save the Manatees sign up to like literally working with 1% for the planet to save the manatees and a bunch of other important causes and animals and stuff. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
So we were just at the 1% for the Planet Global Summit, which you worked your butt off on programming along with the other team members there. And it was a great event. One of the things that struck me was that it was the 20th anniversary, if I'm remembering correctly, and that there is some sharing of the kind of like founding story. Can you talk a little bit about that, high level view?
Yes, of course. So our Global Summit event is an annual member gathering. So our individual members and our business members get together to share inspiration and ways to tackle today's most pressing issues, and also how to really maximize membership. And this year was particularly special, not only because this is an event that we planned in 2020 that had been canceled and rescheduled a handful of times. So we were all yearning for that connection, but also because it's our 20th anniversary. So we had our founders, Yvon Chouinard of Patagonia. A lot of people know about 1% for the Planet because they've read his book, Let My People Go Surfing. And then our other fantastic co-founder, Craig Matthews of Blue Ribbon Flies. And they kicked off the first night with really sharing that legacy story, how, we came to be. And we also got to talk to some of our 20-year-old members. It was a really great moment in time to sort of honor that. And then the rest of the conference really dug into what's next and the next generation of environmental leaders. But in terms of our founding, Craig and Yvon, I believe it actually happened on the Madison River. They were fishing. I think they might have had a beverage in hand, and they were just looking at, the can and saying, well, that's kind of unclear. What was the giving? They're saying they gave to wildlife. Was it one time? What percentage? There just seemed to be a lack of transparency and credibility. So right then and there, they decided to protect the beautiful Madison River, which they love to fish in, and the beautiful air and wildlife surrounding that. They would start giving 1% of annual sales from their respective companies then and there. 20 years later, and we have given close to $380 million back. We, meaning our business and individual members, by directly donating to our vetted environmental nonprofits. So we've come a long way, and it's, I think, really shows up in the numbers, the partnership stories, and knowing how far we've come in terms of the diversity of our network. It used to very much be those bread and butter outdoor companies, and now we are seeing banks and a lot of service businesses. In fact, we have 65 different industries represented in our business membership base. No more than 9% in any one industry. So diversity there. And then we actually just tipped to being more internationally based than US based, which
nice.
is just exciting to see that global growth.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yes, thanks for sharing that story. And I'm hoping that a lot of people listening kind of know at least what 1% for the planet is. But I think it might be worth the effort to kind of break it down a little bit for people, because I think it's, first of all, 1% of what? Second of all, how do you become a member? And is it business, individual, nonprofit? Like it can become pretty complex when you start breaking it up. I'm hoping that a lot of people have a general understanding of 1% for the planet and what it means, but I know it can be kind of complicated too, because you get questions of like, well, 1% of what? And like, how do you become a member, and can individuals become a member, and like, what does it mean to be a nonprofit in the network? So it would be awesome if we could break that down a little bit more, just in case the people out here listening aren't super familiar. And even if they are familiar, this might help clarify. So first of all, let's talk about like 1% of what? Like, how does 1% work?
Absolutely. So 1% for business members actually means 1% of your annual revenue or sales, not your profit, your sales. So it's baked in to your business model. No matter if you have a good year or a bad year, it's going to be 1% of annual revenue. And you as a business member can satisfy that amount in a number of ways. The first is monetary. So writing a check to a nonprofit partner, and that must be, or nonprofit partners, that must be at least 50% of your giving. And then we have this whole other part of the pie, another 50%, where we have some really creative and flexible ways that business members give back, which is through discounted or donated products and services, time, so it's a great employee engagement tool, volunteer time, and approved promotional support, which is a program that we run that allows members to get credit for placing ads that talk about their 1% for the planet membership. So that's business membership. And that's been in existence since day one. Individual membership is a newer program that we started to offer in 2017. And it's 1% of annual salary, not sales, as an individual, and is very accessible in that you can make up that 1% through monetary and or volunteer time. So you could give back entirely through volunteering with a nonprofit partner of your choice. And then the nonprofit piece is, they are the recipients of all this amazing giving. And our nonprofit network is currently 5,000 or so nonprofits located around the world. I think we're close to 100 countries represented. And essentially, we vet them to ensure that they are technically environmental nonprofits by our standards, our definition, and that they are able to drive significant impact. So we focus on really matching individuals and businesses with nonprofit partners that are, directly connected to the causes and issues that they care about most. So if you're a brand, it's a really great opportunity to give back to a cause or causes that mean a lot to you and your business, or maybe are related to your brand or sustainability goals, and then once certified, get credit for that by using our logo, product placement, on your product or service to communicate that to consumers so that they know, Clean Canteen, water bottle, product placement, gives back 1% of their annual sales every year to different vetted nonprofits. And then individuals also can use our logo to communicate their values, but not in the same ways that maybe a business member would.
Yeah, that's
Those
great.
are our
So
main stakeholders. And then consumers, I guess, is another indirect stakeholder that has a big part in our movement because they are choosing to buy from these companies that give back and support the greater cause of a healthier planet.
yeah, have you seen a lot of data from consumers that they are motivated by the 1% for the planet logo?
Tons. Generally, we're excited. We do brand awareness testing every year, and in the U.S. alone, our brand awareness in the last 5 years has grown 146% and continues
Nice.
to grow globally. And in addition to specific data about our logo visibility and awareness, we have data that shares how that actually impacts purchasing behavior in a really positive way. And then, just generally, there's so much information out there right now about conscious consumerism and the growing demands for companies to give back, for employers to give back. So not only does 1% for the planet allow you to communicate that to your consumers, but also your employees. I think we have seen it can be a great employee engagement tool and way to really attract and retain, values aligned employees. And so that's another, I think, bright spot for the potential of membership.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, thanks for breaking that down. And I feel like even as a business member, sometimes the different categories of what counts can get a little bit confusing. I feel like each year that when I'm going to like submit my paperwork or whatever, I'm like, okay, what percentage goes towards this and that? And there's like opportunities that I haven't even pursued yet. Like, for example, one of the ways you can meet your commitment is through promoting the nonprofit that you're supporting, or approved promotional support of the nonprofit, or 1% for the planet. And we just haven't done any of that really yet because we usually fill our 1% quota and beyond without that. And I'm not usually in the habit of remembering to like post on social media and advertise what we're up to. We just end up being one of those companies that just kind of like quietly doing the things that we think are the right thing, and then we forget to talk about it. But there's like so many different ways to meet that 1%. For example, like you said, 50% of that just goes to monetary giving, just like you would expect any sort of giving. You pick out your causes and you donate. For that part, I was initially worried about joining 1% for the planet because as our design company, Modern Species, wants to find ways to impact not just the environment, but also like ethics and economy. And I was like, well, is this all going to be environmental causes? And am I going to max out my giving there? And then I won't have anything left for equity or anything else like that. But what I found is there's so many different types of nonprofits in the organization that we can donate to various causes that are about equity, inclusion, economic impact, like different things like that. So even though it's called 1% for the planet, it's still a pretty diverse, wide network. So that's one thing I want to like distill or make sure, in case anyone else was worried like I was, that you can find stuff that's relevant for your brand. And then another thing that I want to make sure people understand too is that yes, there are fees associated with being a 1% business member, just the same way there are fees because we're also a B Corp member. There are fees associated with that. Those fees go towards making sure that they have the staff and economic feasibility to keep the organization going. But these kind of groups like 1% and B Corp, the power of them is that it's third party verified, right? Because I could claim that I give whatever percentage and nobody's ever checking my math, and I could claim whatever kind of greenwash. Even if I am doing it, I can claim it, and like, how much value does it hold unless somebody checks? But with 1% for the planet, you have team members who go and like verify your giving by seeing the receipts and looking at your profit and loss statement and verifying that you gave at least 1%. So that money goes towards the third party verification. But what's cool that people might not know is that those fees, those membership fees, also can count towards your 1% commitment.
Yep. Yeah, and I appreciate you debunking two of those big myths. So one is the people and planet. Yes, we don't have people in our logo, but we see that these issues as so intertwined and important. We recognize we can't solve the climate crisis without recognizing the disproportionate impact that it has on marginalized communities. So a lot of our focus has been, the last few years, has been growing the nonprofit part of our network that really focuses on environmental justice issues. And I think we have a growing number of members and new members that are really, really eager to give to those issues. So thank you for calling that out. And also that we do, despite the membership fee, we do, you as a member directly give. There's no middleman. So we're not taking a cut out of that giving to a nonprofit partner, I think is something I'm still surprised that even our members don't know sometimes. So I'm really glad you called that out. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good note. Cool. So yeah, there's lots of different ways to give. And I think if you're a company out there already doing a lot, you're probably pretty close, if not already surpassing 1%. Like I think when I just submitted our paperwork, just a few weeks ago or something, because it's usually due around April. When I submitted our paperwork, I think we were at like 600% of our 1% goal for the year. So like it's pretty easy when you're already doing a lot to surpass your minimum commitment. And it's just nice to be able to like document all that and have it in one place and be able to verify it, which is kind of a nice benefit because I think that's a big part of why Modern Species, for example, does the B Corp and 1% for the planet and carbon neutral stuff is because, we want to do the right thing, but we also want someone else to look over our shoulder and check our math and, make sure we're doing the right thing. And we also want to be held to a certain standard that encourages us to improve, right? So like we want to set goals. We want to keep doing better. We don't want to just write one small check a year and call it done that we did our part. Like we want to push ourselves further and try to do more and more. So
as a business member, if you can solve some of your business goals, if you are interested in certifications, some of the costs associated with becoming a B Corp member or becoming climate neutral certified, that can count toward your 1% for the planet annual commitment. So in a way, if that is important to your business, you can, that's something you can go after, and it can be, under the umbrella of 1% for the planet. And it's not one or the other. These certifications do signify really important commitments and different commitments. And then we've seen that, and a lot of business members have been really strategic in their giving to satisfy business objectives. For example, King Arthur Flour, we partnered them with National Young Farmers Coalition, and through this partnership, they solved a business problem, which was the need to transition to organic farming rather, and a shortage of organic farmers. So through their work with this nonprofit, they were able to make that transition.
Yeah, that example with King Arthur is really cool because I like what you were talking about there about making it relevant for your brand. Because again, back to Modern Species, like we were worried about whether or not we'd be able to donate to all the things we care about. And that's really cool that King Arthur was able to like further real business goals while also kind of fulfilling their 1% for the planet commitment. And it reminds me a little bit of the panel that we were just kind of co-planning together for the summit, where it was all about getting creative with your giving. And I think part of that getting creative is making sure it's relevant to your brand, but also finding ways to engage your team members and finding ways to like get more involved with a nonprofit. Like writing a check is great. People need cash, but sometimes there's way more value in you providing your expertise, your service, your products for that nonprofit that could be way more valuable than just a check, right? So can you touch on some of the other kind of guests on the panel and how they were, like why we recruited them to the panel based on some of their case studies of giving?
Definitely. And then I want to hear your giving story, Gage, because you have a great one.
Happy to share.
A couple examples coming out of that awesome panel. Thank you again for your support moderating it. So I think at the core, I heard a lot about community. So we had an individual member who, especially during the pandemic, was really seeking a way to feel connected to a larger community, and joined and has already given back to, I believe, 4 different nonprofit partners. And one of the ways in which she's done that is through a giving circle where she and other individual members pool donations and go through a process together of determining where to direct that money. So she's from that not only supported environmental causes, but she was able to grow her local community and has some really meaningful relationships of people from the giving circle. We had another business member who experienced Momentum, physical therapy business. They have engaged their consumers and employees by actually polling them to understand where they'd like to see money directed to. So they get to really actually be part of this democratic process in determining where to direct funds based on environmental interests. We also had a great example, Outer, an outdoor furniture company that has leveraged our approved promotional support program. And again, that's where you can get credit toward your 1% commitment by placing ads that talk about membership in your partnerships. And Isabel from Outer reported these amazing statistics around those actual ads, social media ads and videos they created that had a 6 times higher click-through rate. And
Oh, wow.
just, all this data that accompanied the spend to show that consumers want to hear this. They want to know that you share in their values. So those are some great examples. We also had Topa Topa Brewing there. This is a CPG related audience. So another great example. But again, getting back to community, Jack from Topa Topa has really used this as a way to engage consumers, to engage other business members. They've done a lot of donated product and time in terms of volunteering with nonprofit partners, but hosting fundraising events. And I think he even said, we don't have a marketing budget. We have 1% for the planet, which beautiful. And then we had your awesome example.
Yeah. So yeah, those are all great examples of like getting your team involved or doing something that's relevant for you. I think there might be a recording available. I know that we were recording that. I don't know when that'll be released, but maybe if it's released in time, we'll put that in the show notes so people can listen to the full talk to get the examples. But lots of great ways to make your commitment to the planet, right? So for us, because we're a design agency, first off, with that experience of knowing how to design identities, logos, graphics, etc., and because we're super passionate about changing the food industry, since a lot of the paths towards climate solutions are food related, it just felt like the perfect fit for us to do some of our giving by partnering with the Upcycled Food Association when they were looking to launch the world's first upcycled certified program. So we work with a lot of certifications on package design all the time, like B Corp logos or organic certifications or non-GMO, right? So when the opportunity came across to help launch a new certification that certified a verified amount of upcycled ingredients in a product, that just sounded like a no-brainer. Like, yeah, we could have written them a check because they're a member of 1% for the Planet as a nonprofit, and then they could have gone and found someone to maybe help them launch this program. But what seemed like way more value is us bringing our 13 years of experience designing for CPG, using certification marks, knowing what makes them hard to use and what makes them easy to use, knowing this more conscious consumer pretty intimately, since we are them and we've been designing for them for such a long period of time. It just felt like the right fit. So when they kind of ran the RFP by us, we said, you know what, maybe instead of an RFP, why don't we just do this as part of our 1% for the planet commitment? So we jumped on board with them and designed the mark. We, through their partnership with Drexel and some other kind of university programs and research institutes, we tested different concepts for the marks and to make sure like we're using the right colors and the right symbols and that it was recognizable and easy to understand and intrigued or got consumers interested in learning more about what upcycled means or buying upcycled products. So it was just this really fun experience where we got to bring our expertise as part of our commitment to the planet. And then we also actually went out and got them some grants to help fund some other projects that they were working on. So just getting involved and being part of that upcycled movement has been really rewarding for us. So yes, it was, donating a good bit of work to help get that off the ground, but it's also just rewarding for myself and our team to have played any part in this movement, this pretty big movement right now, the upcycled food movement, which is listed as one of the strongest solutions for climate change, which is, reducing food waste. So it's just really great to have something so aligned to our brand that also contributes to the planet and made perfect sense for us to partner with them. And now we consider ourselves like a member of that upcycled movement, which is really fun.
That's awesome. It's so nice to hear. And, I think we can continue to reiterate that financial support is so necessary and so valued, right? But there is something about going deeper and sharing your specific expertise, time, whatever that may be, that can really just deepen those relationships. And I've seen through 1% for the Planet Partnership some really beautiful relationships come out of those unique giving opportunities where you get to know each other's problems and the opportunities and each other's work. And sometimes it's really quantitative results. Like I can think of Maine Beer Company giving to I can think of Maine Beer Company, donating or supporting a solar project of Wolf's Next Farm, and that saves them 20,000 electricity costs every year, right? That's very quantitative. And I can think of a conversation I had with Harney and Sons Tea, talking with one of their oldest nonprofit partners they've supported, and hearing from both of them the symbiotic relationship of, hey, he really brings this, for-profit experience and, knowledge to the table. And I bring, my own experience in my role, and we just become better business people because of it. So I think there's just, at the end of the day, one of the best parts about 1% for the planet is there's countless stories, and they're all unique and they're all important. So I think, that becomes a huge asset for brands, the impact storytelling, and for consumers to, hear about these authentic relationships that are driving real impact for our planet.
Yeah. I mean, you talked about impact storytelling too. I think that's part of it as well, is that when we just write checks, which, we do that as well as part of our commitment, we write checks. I offer up to each employee, I just divide it up and say, okay, you get to donate this amount. You pick the organizations and tell me where. And even if it's not 1%, we'll donate to them still, it's totally fine. But that is important because there's causes out there that need money, and we're passionate about a lot of things that we don't necessarily have the time to contribute our design expertise to. But it's when you get involved in a more intimate level that I think the impact is multiplied, because it's more rewarding for you, it's more valuable for them, and like you said, it's a better story to tell. Like I could tell a story about the checks I wrote, but it's a little bit of a struggle. Like, oh yeah, we wrote this check to this group, they're pretty cool, look at the stuff they did. That's a different story than like, hey, we rolled up our sleeves and we went out there and planted trees with this group, or we provided our design expertise and went through this whole research process and whatever. Like there's just a lot richer stories that I think can be told when you're able to get more intimately involved and kind of weave it into your brand like that.
Definitely. And might make for a more compelling case to your CFO or whoever's managing your financials to say, actually, we can pull this from our advertising budget and use approved promotional support to achieve some of our marketing goals as well. So I think there's unlimited creativity and accessibility that stems from that creative giving model. So it's really cool to hear that you've been able to lean into it and that you're still excited about ways that you haven't yet given back.
Yeah. I mean, just we're going through our B Corp recertification right now too. And I've got, it looks like we probably improved our score, which is great. We made some progress in the last 3 years. But even still, there's still more stuff I want to keep working on, right? So it's like the progress over perfection. Like we started probably just writing checks, and then we started donating services, and next maybe we'll finally get into some of the approved promotional support kind of stuff. But it's just about finding all the different ways that you can give back in a way for sure that makes sense for that nonprofit, that helps protect our planet, but also you can find ways that also benefit you as well. So it doesn't feel like you're just giving money and seeing money disappear from your bank account. But like you said, you could we're going to spend this money on advertising anyway, or like Topa, don't spend any money on advertising, just do your 1% giving. And that kind of overlaps with advertising. So the more creative you get, I think the better it is all around. As we kind of wrap up this conversation, I'd love if you have any tips, and I'll get it kicked off, but tips for people like who are interested in 1% for the planet. How do you get the most out of it? Because I have lots of conversations with people who are like, well, what do you get out of B Corp, or what do you get out of 1%? And my answer is pretty much always the same for any movement or whatever that you're involved in. The more you contribute, the more you get. By which I mean, if you just write a check, again, that's great. You did your duty. But like, if you get involved, go to the summit, participate with other 1% members, and do some collaborative thing. Donate your services, your time, whatever, to the nonprofits. Like, the more physically you get involved, the more of your time you spend, the more of your network you open up to this, the more value will come from it. Because there's this amazing community of 1% for the planet members, and there's a lot of overlap with B Corp as well, where we call ourselves the B1s or something like that. And then I'm also trying to start the movement of the B1Cs of B Corp, 1% and carbon neutral. So we'll work on that one. But that would be my tip, is if you sign up, don't just write the check, get involved. Like, find your local community, collaborate with other brands, like whatever it is, whatever that looks like for you, just get involved. Do you have any tips that you've found it makes membership more rewarding for members?
Well, I think you just definitely hit on a lot of that. Kind of what you put in is what you get back. At the end of the day, you're getting a logo, and that signifies something to your consumers and your employees, and the peace of mind that you're doing something. But you can really go so much deeper in terms of your relationships with others in the network, whether that's nonprofit or other members. So you're getting community. So I would say, maximizing membership is all about leaning into those opportunities to network and grow, your own community of like-minded businesses that are changing the planet. And I think for those who are not involved, you picking up on a thread from earlier, like the progress, not perfection. It's, it's easy. It's so easy to get overwhelmed. There's, like, speaking of consumer data or just data, there's so much out there around climate anxiety right now, and that's understandable, but don't get discouraged. Take the first step. Or if you're in the network, take a step deeper, like go deeper. I think there's, lean into collective action and know that it's not all on you. And it's not too late either. You can start at any time, whether you're an individual, a business, a consumer, those little changes add up. And we're 380 million given to nonprofits, and that's a lot of different changes and commitments building up. So I encourage that wherever you're at, to not feel intimidated that you haven't done something to date, or you haven't done it well enough or deep enough or whatever it is. It's just, our planet can't afford business as usual. And so it's time to take that first step or take that deeper step.
Yeah, I think, was it Yvonne that says it's basically our earth tax, because we pay taxes to our government to make sure there's roads and water and electricity and, whatever, just things like that, the infrastructure that we rely on to run a business. Mm-hmm. And 1% for the planet is kind of like your earth tax. Like, if you aren't supporting the home planet, none of us are going to have businesses, because we're not even going to have a habitable planet to live in. So it's just consider it your earth tax to some degree. And there's various ways you can pay back your earth tax. And it's really accessible model. And often when people are asking me about like how to get started down a path of more impact-driven business and they're asking about B Corp and carbon neutral and all these different kind of things, I often tell them just start with 1% for the planet, because you make it accessible for people to give in different ways. You can have an individual member, you can have a business member. And it's not like with B Corp, it can take you like maybe even up to a year to go through all the paperwork and measure everything you need to do and verify things and make improvements in order to meet the minimum score. But with 1%, you can sign up today and you just have to verify, however many months later. Like I can't remember if when people first sign up, if you give them a full year, or if they just verify on a prorated kind of rate. But let's say you could just sign up today with little to no effort, like just talk to a 1% for the planet staff member. They'll get you going. It's an easy place to start, and it's an accessible way to start. And then there's a great community there, and that can be your stepping stone into things like B Corp or carbon neutral or other things.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much. It's so nice talking to one of our amazing members. To hear it from you, it just is. I'm going to have to bring you to any future acquisition call.
Nice. If you need to close a deal, let me know. Yeah. I'll just pop in and tell them how rewarding it has been. Yeah. And I also say it's like a great way to engage your team too, right? Because 1% is not always B Corp's not always the easiest way to engage your team, because like there's a lot of back end assessment stuff that's hard. But like at the very minimum, even asking your team to choose the donations is just a fun way to like include everyone, but there's so many other ways. So I recommend it if that hasn't been obvious yet. Allyson, I appreciate you coming on and filling in some gaps in my knowledge and sharing a little bit more about your personal background, the love of the manatees and the environment, and growing up in the swamps and living in a beautiful ski town. But also just like your commitment to helping further the planet and supporting this amazing organization, 1% for the planet. So thank you for all you do. And I'll point any other questions that pop up during this conversation to you. But I appreciate your time coming out and sharing your story.
Thank you for the opportunity and being part of the solution. I mean, we provide an awesome platform, and our business members, individual members, donors, and nonprofit partners, they make it happen. It's a pretty remarkable thing. So thanks for being part of that, and just paying that rent for the use of the planet, doing your part.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, go Team Planet.
Yes.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about Allyson or 1% for the Planet, visit 1percentfortheplanet.org, all spelled out. So that's 1 ONE% PERCNT for theplanet.org. Subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel for more innovator interviews, expert advice, and leadership discussions. If you like this episode, leave a heart, thumbs up, or review, and share it with your colleagues. As an ever-evolving show, we also love feedback, so send us your thoughts or ideas for who we should talk to next to evolve@modernspecies.com.